Hello, you're welcome to Other Matters 2A. Today we're going to treat a very important but controversial subject. We're going to try to answer the question, should women be allowed to legally have multiple partners? Should a woman be allowed to marry several husbands, even as their male counterparts do? Should that happen? Um, Listen to this video.
Good evening and welcome to the news brought to you live from the MGP newsroom in the Western Cape, South Africa. In the news tonight, a green paper containing new amendments to the South African Marriage Act had been published today by the South African Department of Home Affairs. One of the proposals is the recognition of polyandry. This then means that a South African woman would be legally allowed to marry more than one man at the same time.
Funny, isn't it?
Hey, not while I'm still alive. Oh, no, 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 no,
Haram.
no. One woman, two men at the same time.
You can't believe it.
Yeah. Not while I'm still alive. But let's move on. The deputy.
All right, so this news presenter is just blown out of his senses by the idea that a woman can have several husbands. It's never heard of, unthinkable that a woman can have several husbands. But it's very normal to most people that a man would have several wives. That is what the society has come to accept. But has that always been the case? Is that God's original plan for mankind? Let us go ahead and examine this question more intensely. Now, let us look at historical gender relationships with human beings. There are two major gender relationships in terms of when it comes to coital relationships. They are polygamy and monogamy, or monogamy and polygamy. So under polygamy, we have two forms of relationships. Polygamy and polyandry. Polygyny and polyandry. Okay. Under polygamy, we have polygyny and polyandry. And then we have a third form that is polyamory. Okay, I will be explaining these terms as we go on. So there are two big forms, polygamy and monogamy. Under polygamy, we have polygyny and polyandry. And then we also have polyamory. Monogamy is simply one man, one wife, or one woman, one husband. That is very common. That's the most common. No, not the most common. That is common with all people. I mean, one man, one wife is people know it is there, but one woman, one husband is what is well spread. Everybody knows that. But we have polygamy, which is one person getting married to many spouses. When I say spouse, I'm using the generic term spouse because polygamy applies to both men and women. You can have one man marrying several wives, and we can have one woman marrying several husbands. Okay, it comes under polygamy. One man having several wives, one woman having several husbands. Poly, many, gamy, coitus. How do you call it? Marriage or union. Okay, getting together, mixing of genes. Okay, so polygamy means that one man marrying several wives, or one husband marrying one wife marrying several husbands. Yes, it is possible for one woman to have several husbands. Now, so under the big title of polygamy, we now have two divisions. We have polygyny, which is one man having several wives, more than one wife at the same time. Not that one wife died and he went to marry another one. No. Not that he divorced one and took another. No. At the same time, the man has several uh, wives, legally accepted wives. That is the system that is widespread all over the world. Most societies accept this. In fact, before the Christian religion and the Islamic religion arrived, almost all societies in this world were polygamous. Then we have polyandry, which is the second form of marriage under polygamy. We have polygyny for men and polyandry for women. Polyandry is the case where a woman will marry two or more husbands. All right. This would seem strange. Somebody would say, "Mark, what are you proposing? What are you talking about? What abomination is this you bring into our ears?" Yes, that's what we call polyandry. Many of us from many cultures may not even be aware that there is polyandry. But polyandry has been practiced for centuries in Nepal and Tibet in India. And then in the Marquesas province, in China, the South Pacific island of Marquesas, where the Chinese are claiming ownership of that island. The people there also practice polyandry. As I've said, polyandry has been the system for a long time, for many generations. You may not have heard it before, but polyandry exists. In fact, in the polyandrous societies, the men accept, just like in polygynous societies, women accept that their husbands can have more than one wife. In the same way, in polyandrous societies, the men accept that their wives can have more than one husband. You will say, abomination. What kind of stupidity is this? Where is that coming from? Okay, the same question can be asked. Why do you suppose that you, a man, you can just marry as many women as you can, and then you limit the woman to just one husband? What makes you think that you have the right? Who gave you that right? God didn't. God didn't give us that right. Women, we the men, God didn't give us the right to marry several wives and keep those wives as sex objects that we just use to satisfy ourselves. Okay. So apart from polygyny and polyandry, there is also this form called polyamory. Polyamory is a loose form of relationship where all the people involved they consent that their partners can have other sexual partners, as many as they can. So, for instance, a man marries his wife and permits his wife to have sex with other men. Or a woman who has a husband permits the husband to have sex with other women. In fact, this latter form is well known. We call them girlfriends and boyfriends or mistresses. Again, it is the men who have the right to do that. A man who is legally married to a woman, they're living together, and then the man goes cheating. We call it cheating. Now, when it's cheating, it means that the woman doesn't consent. She doesn't agree. But the man goes and sleeps with other women anyways, and the woman can't do anything about it. Okay, so in that case, there is it can be strictly called polyamory. But there are cases of polyamory where the woman knows that the man is cheating. He sees him going out, coming back in the morning. He sees him moving with other women. He's not married to them, but the woman can't do anything. He's a man. In in the patriarchal society and a male hegemony, as we have in the world, the woman has no say. The woman can go and sleep with as many men as he chooses, and he's okay. So the women just keep quiet and allow the men to do whatever they want to do. This was what was practiced in Jonestown in Guyana, in the People's Temple, when Jim Jones, taught the people in his church, in the People's Temple, that love meant that they should share all things in common. The Bible says the apostles and the first Christians shared all things in common in Acts chapter 6. So Jim Jones says that they should share all things in common, including their wives and husbands. So in the People's Temple, there was free sex. Every man accepted that his wife could have sex with other men who wanted to. The same way the women also accepted that their husbands could have sex with other women. Jim Jones himself, he loved the women. He could have sex with as many women as he chose. And the people, the husbands of those women knew that my wife is in there with Jim Jones. And they had to accept. This is what we call polyamory. It's a very loose form of relationship that evolved over the years, especially as people became more conscious of their freedoms, more conscious of equality. In South Africa, they are not only fighting, the women are not only fighting for polygyny, they are also talking about very soon fighting for polyamory. Now, what is God's plan? God's plan is monogamy. A man would get married to one wife. A woman would get married to one man. He created them like that in the beginning, a man and a woman. He could have created one man and several women, or one woman and several husbands. But in its own wisdom, he chose to create a man and a woman. And they became the first married couple, But in Genesis chapter 4, something happened. And verse 19, Genesis 4:19, the first person to get married to two wives was Lamech, the son of Methuselah. Okay. And from that time onwards, polygyny developed. That's in the Jewish society, as we have it in the Bible, the Old Testament, the Jewish history. So that time, why did Lamech get married to two wives? Greed, because there was no apparent cause for him to get married to two wives. Maybe there were women where there were excess women, and he just decided to get married to another woman. Okay, but then there are also social, political, and economic reasons that these systems, other forms of systems, other systems of marriage evolved over the years. For instance, the political reason of people going to war. If you had a town with 1,000 men, and 1,000 men went to war, only 300 of them came back home. Now it means that there are 700 widows. If all the men were married, there'll be 700 widows, in addition to the single ladies who never got married. So we'll have more than 1,000, getting to 1,500 or even 2,000 women with only 300 men. That was a problem. It was a social problem. It was also an economic and political problem. In the first place, women could not possess, they couldn't own property, they couldn't inherit their parents because of the patriarchal systems of the societies of all over the world. So a woman cannot inherit land. She cannot even inherit her father. That is why either her father is taking care of her or her husband is taking care of her. It's been that way. Women were counted as children. Even today, we still say women and children. We lump them together in one group. And in most societies in this world, what we call incapacity, the legal term, the law of contract, we call something incapacity, which means that a child is not capable of treating a covenant or signing a contract. The child has not got, it's a child who is in the age of majority, it's not yet a major, has not got today we say 18 years. Somebody who below 18 years cannot sign a contract. That's incapacity. Women were included in the group of children. Women could not own property, even in the Western societies. It's only as late as the 19th century that women really had the right to own a property, to buy a land, to sign contracts. It was their husbands that were doing that for them, even in Western societies. Okay, so women literally had very few rights. And talking about coitus, talking about sexual relationship, in many societies, women were just sex objects to satisfy men. In fact, it was in the olden days, it was unheard of for a woman to approach a man for sex. It was also unheard of for a woman to want to enjoy sex. That is why in certain societies in East Africa, there's what we call infibulation. Infibulation is this practice of cutting off the clitoris of the female genitalia. And the reason is that she should not enjoy sex. The clitoris, the presence of the clitoris is such that the woman should enjoy sex. So she'll be spoiled. She'll crave for more when she's enjoying it. So they'll cut off the clitoris. There are other reasons, that men advance. But the real, reason that makes sense was that, they didn't want the woman to enjoy sex, because sex would be enjoyed by only the man and not the woman. The woman was just a sexual object. Up to today, many men treat their wives as sexual objects. They don't care whether the woman is having any enjoyment from the sexual relationship or not. They just jump on, do whatever they want to do, and go to sleep. All right. They don't care. And when the woman expresses her desire to also enjoy the sex, she's said to be a spoiled girl. She's spoiled. Okay. So in those days, women could not own property. So the widows that were left in such a town where 1,000 men, out of 1,000 men, 700 were killed in the battle, and only 300 were left. Who would take care of the women? They couldn't inherit property. They were belongings of men. They belonged to men. They were like properties of men. What would they do? Okay, so in the first place, there was a question of how all those widows were going to survive. Two, there was a question of vulnerability. Men went to war, women didn't go to war. So that society where we had 1,000 plus women and only 300 men, they were vulnerable. What time did people go to war? When the Bible says at the time that kings go to war, when David went upstairs and saw Bathsheba, he saw her bathing and he lusted after her and had an affair with her. When they say the time that kings go to war, when do kings go to war? They go to war during harvest. When other communities have cultivated their grounds, they farmed, and the farm has given a lot of produce and it's ripe for harvest. That's when the societies, the historic societies, that's when they went to war. They would go kill all the men, take the women as their wives, take others, to be slaves, loot all their property, take away all their livestock, harvest all their crops, and go away. That's how the societies in those days lived. Even in Israel, the story of the war of Israel with Midian, the Midianites, the Israel wiped out the Midianites. They wiped out all the men and left the women. And they brought all the women and girls to Moses. And Moses told them to kill any woman that had known a man. Moses was really angry. He wanted them to wipe out everyone, not to leave anyone breathing in that society. But since they had already brought the people, he asked them to kill any woman who knew a man and leave only the virgins. And what were they to do with the virgins? They were to share them, take them as their wives. They shared them among themselves, give some to the Levites and priests. Okay. So that was how they lived. It was not just Israel, all the societies of the world, that's the way they lived. So every society, was eager to have male children. That's why male children were more important than female children. Boys were more important than girls. If a woman gave birth, they expected the woman to give birth to a boy, so that they will be strong. The army will be strong. In other societies, in other, agro-pastoral societies, the bigger, your farm was, the more respected you had from their community or society. And how can one man have 2, 3, 4, 5 huge farms? You needed more labor. Where will you get the labor? You had to get more children. And to get more children, you had to have more wives. So the more wives you had, the bigger your family, the bigger you had farm hands, who would come and work on the farm and produce more crops. That's how riches were counted. That's how, people were important. Important people were counted those days. So there were legitimate reasons that these forms of marriage, like polygyny and polyandry, developed. But fast forward to today, is there any reason why any reason that a man should marry several wives? Any reason that a woman should marry several husbands? Practically, no. Those circumstances do not exist any longer. The reason the major reason that people marry several wives today or several husbands is greed. Greed is excessive and selfish desire for power, for wealth, and for material goods. Anything material. The Bible defines it, very, very beautifully in 1 John chapter 2, verse 15 to 18. The Bible calls it the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. That is practically what greed is. I'm going to go into more details, on how greed is at the base of all these forms of society and the forms of marriage that are there today. Polygyny, polyandry, polyamory. Okay, all these forms of marriage are there today. Men are free to have as many wives as they want. Women are not craving to have as many husbands as they choose. The law should permit them. And in South Africa, they are not only fighting for polyandry, there are the women leaders, not all women leaders, but the gender female liberationists who are actually fighting for polyamory also. And it's just a matter of time it would happen. Why would men think that greed is unique to them? Greed is a character of Satan. It is his primary character. He was a covering cherub. He had all the power, more than ordinary angels. He was close to the throne of God, but that was not enough for him. He wanted more power. He said, I'll climb on the mountain of God, and I'll sit on the throne, and I'll be like God. Greed Satan wanted more power, just like many of our presidents in Africa. The moment they are sent to the throne, they become presidents. They want to die being presidents. Even though the constitution may mandate just 2 terms of office, in their second term, they will amend the constitution and allow themselves to stay for life. That's why we have a lot of coup d'etats. Greed. Greed is a primary character of Satan that he has given to humanity. But greed is not unique to men. Women are also human beings. Women are under the same government of Satan. Satan is pouring the greed from his heart to everyone, men and women. So why do men think that, they alone can be greedy? Follow me in my next video, and we'll go into more details. This is a very important topic. Don't miss it. God bless you, and I'll meet you in my next video. Don't miss it. God bless you. Bye.